At 3:17 p.m. on a humid Tuesday in Jacksonville, Florida, a Publix employee slipped on a pool of meat juice behind the butcher counter. What she uncovered while wiping the slick floor made her gag a sticky mixture of grayish fluid and darkened meat fibers oozing from a broken vacuum-sealed package of fresh ground beef. It had expired 6 days earlier and was still on sale. This wasn't a one-off mistake. It was a glimpse behind the curtain into a meat supply system some of America's biggest grocery chains don't want you to question. From hidden rewrapping practices to international import scams, we're pulling back the curtain on 5 massive grocery stores where you should never buy your meat and exactly why. 1. Walmart, mass meat, mass problems. Walmart sells more groceries than any other retailer in the United States, more than Kroger, Costco, and Amazon combined. But behind those low prices is a cost few consumers ever see. In 2022, a whistleblower from a processing facility in Nebraska revealed that Walmart's meat suppliers were routinely gassing beef with carbon monoxide to preserve the red color even after the meat had started spoiling. This practice, known as modified atmosphere packaging, isn't technically illegal in the U.S., but it's banned in countries like Canada and the European Union. Why? Because it masks spoilage and gives meat a misleadingly fresh appearance. Independent tests by food watchdog groups show that Walmart's prepackaged steaks and ground beef had the highest bacterial counts of any major U.S. grocery chain. One sample of ground beef tested in San Diego had more E. coli than raw sewage. Walmart has repeatedly denied wrongdoing, but former employees have admitted under oath that sell-by labels were often printed in-store with new dates placed over the old ones to move aging meat out the door. Walmart's influence over the American meat industry is colossal. When a corporation this large makes demands, entire supply chains bend to meet them. But scale breeds shortcuts, and when it comes to meat, those shortcuts can be deadly. In 2020, a class-action lawsuit filed in Illinois accused one of Walmart's poultry suppliers of knowingly shipping meat with traces of arsenic-based compounds, used to stimulate growth and control parasites in chickens. These substances, though once permitted in the industry, are now linked to cancer and banned in several countries. Walmart denied any wrongdoing, but didn't sever ties with the supplier. The issue goes deeper than additives. Multiple former distribution center employees say that meat shipments frequently arrive with broken cold chain integrity. In one leaked memo, a manager warned staff not to report temps that briefly crossed 45 degrees Fahrenheit if the packaging still appeared sealed and undamaged. Internal training materials emphasized visual checks over thermometer readings. Then there's the matter of equity in food quality. Investigations have shown that Walmart locations in lower-income, predominantly minority communities are more likely to receive near-expiry or lower-quality meat cuts. In Detroit, a 2023 local news report documented multiple complaints from residents who bought meat that spoiled within 24 hours. Some packages contained greenish utis and slime, despite being labeled as fresh. Walmart's aggressive centralization has created a meat pipeline where corners are cut, risk is normalized, and the sheer volume of product becomes a shield against accountability. By 2025, Walmart is expected to serve more than 240 million customers per week. But what happens when a company this size gets it wrong? In late 2021, multiple Walmart stores across Louisiana were forced to quietly destroy over 30,000 pounds of spoiled pork after consumers reported an overwhelming stench and green discoloration. No official recall was issued. Why? Because Walmart's internal compliance team labeled it as a localized cold storage failure, and under current USDA regulations, recalls are voluntary unless there's proven health risk. With enough legal wiggle room, Walmart avoided public scrutiny entirely. This tactic, treating meat spoilage as a logistics issue, is a familiar one. In logistics reports leaked from a regional distribution hub in Missouri, internal timestamps show delays of 8 to 11 hours for unloading refrigerated meat trucks due to understaffing. In several cases, temperatures in transit rose above 50 degrees Fahrenheit. Meat was still shelved. On the ground, overworked employees often lacked the authority or training to discard questionable meat. In interviews, former Walmart associates admitted they were instructed to restock questionable items if they looked okay. Store-level whistleblowers claimed that even color-correcting lighting was installed above meat displays to offset graying hues. The scale at which Walmart operates not only makes it harder to track errors, it makes it easier to bury them. After all, if no one looks too closely, did it really happen? Walk into any Walmart meat section and you'll see neatly packaged, brightly colored steaks, chicken breasts, and pork chops. But here's what most customers never realize. Walmart doesn't process most of its meat. It outsources the majority of its meat supply to third-party processors, many of whom are under little scrutiny. One such supplier, located in the Midwest, was found in a USDA audit to have multiple safety violations, including cross-contamination of beef and poultry products and workers failing to sanitize equipment between shifts. Despite repeated citations, the facility continued shipping product to Walmart stores nationwide. 2. Whole Foods. The organic illusion. Whole Foods built its empire on one word: trust. But a 2023 expose by Consumer Reports shattered the image many Americans had of the upscale grocery chain. The headline: Whole Foods lead about its meat. An undercover investigation tracked grass-fed, ethically raised beef sold at Whole Foods locations across Los Angeles and New York. DNA tracing showed that over 30% of the cuts came from feedlot cattle raised in crowded, unsanitary conditions, often in Brazil, and shipped to the U.S. frozen, then relabeled as product of the USA. Even worse, some of the beef labeled as antibiotic-free tested positive for totlicin and monensin, two antibiotics banned for organic livestock use. How? Through a legal loophole. If imported meat is processed or even just repackaged in the U.S., it can legally carry a product of USA label. Whole Foods suppliers exploited this, and the chain never disclosed it to customers. Employees at stores in Oregon and Illinois admitted they were instructed not to answer questions about meat origins, especially during busy weekend rushes. The illusion of purity was just that, an illusion. Whole Foods positions itself as the conscience of the grocery world. With ambient lighting, recycled packaging, and buzzwords like sustainable, it lures shoppers into believing they're making ethically sound choices. But what if the gap between promise and practice is wider than they admit? In 2022, independent research from food chain ID traced Whole Foods pork to farms where pigs were kept in tight gestation crates, a practice banned in several states and condemned by animal welfare organizations. Yet Whole Foods packaging prominently displayed the certified humane label, raising serious questions about the credibility of their audits. Even more damning, Whole Foods lobbied the USDA in 2021 to relax country of origin labeling requirements on specialty meat items like venison and lamb. Why? Because many of their exotic meats are sourced from overseas markets where regulatory enforcement is weak or non-existent. By masking origins, the brand can protect its upscale image even when it's outsourcing to underregulated suppliers. Another overlooked issue: antimicrobial resistance. A peer-reviewed study in Environmental Health Perspectives analyzed Whole Foods chicken and found that 15% of samples contained multi-drug-resistant bacteria despite being marketed as antibiotic-free. This raises alarming questions about cross-contamination in shared facilities or improper segregation during transport and storage. For customers who pay more because they believe they're avoiding health risks, the betrayal runs deep. Whole Foods may not be selling mystery meat, but they're certainly selling manufactured confidence. Whole Foods has cultivated a brand that whispers, "Trust us." But recent years have shown how easily that whisper becomes a cover for something else entirely. In 2023, a former Whole Foods regional meat coordinator from California came forward with a cache of internal communications. In one thread, executives debated whether to continue sourcing lamb from New Zealand feedlots while maintaining the 100% pasture-raised label. The final decision? Keep the sourcing, adjust the label only if complaints escalate. The same coordinator also revealed that corporate prioritized meat color consistency over nutrient content. Aesthetic appearance was deemed more important than freshness, leading to routine use of carbon monoxide packaging techniques, which help meat stay red long after it's begun to break down chemically. Then there's the myth of local meat. Whole Foods frequently markets items as locally sourced, but internal shipping logs tell a different story. Some local chicken in Denver was shipped from North Carolina, over 1,500 miles away. The justification? If the processing plant is local, even if the farm isn't, they can legally stretch the label. Consumers naturally never know the difference. Even the in-store butchers are often not what they seem. Several stores have begun replacing trained butchers with pre-cut, factory-packaged meat, only retaining signage that implies customization. According to leaked memos, this change saved the company significant labor costs and reduced shrink, but at the cost of oversight and food safety. Whole Foods may still be organic in name, but behind the counters, it's just business. Whole Foods' reputation rests on one word: transparency. But more and more, that transparency seems carefully staged, designed to win consumer loyalty while hiding inconvenient truths. A 2023 internal document obtained by the New York Times showed that Whole Foods' responsibly raised label is not based on daily or even weekly inspections. Instead, farm audits may occur just once every 18 months, and in some cases, farms self-report their conditions. This allowed one pork supplier with ties to industrial-scale hog confinement operations to pass as humanely raised, even though drone footage from animal rights activists showed pigs kept in concrete pens with no outdoor access. 3. Aldi, where cheap meat comes at a hidden price. Aldi is known for being budget-friendly. But when it comes to meat, you might want to think twice before tossing that $2.99 ground beef into your cart. In 2021, a leaked internal audit revealed that several Aldi U.S. suppliers were using mechanically separated meat, a controversial process that involves blasting carcasses with high-pressure water or machines to extract leftover scraps. These scraps are often the least desirable parts of the animal's skin, connective tissue, and marrow. That's not the only issue. Aldi contracts out a significant portion of its meat processing to third-party facilities in Mexico, where regulation is looser and inspections are rare. A Business Insider investigation uncovered evidence that chicken shipped to U.S. Aldi stores had been previously frozen, thawed, injected with saline, and then sold as fresh. Why does it matter? Because these practices not only deceive customers, they increase health risks. Mechanically separated meats are more prone to bacterial contamination, and pumped chicken often carries higher levels of Campylobacter, a dangerous pathogen that can cause severe gastrointestinal illness. Aldi has publicly responded by tightening supplier audits, but insiders say it's largely performative. The price is low, but the safety, that's the real cost. Aldi's no-frills model has helped it dominate the discount grocery space, but it's come at a hidden cost in quality, transparency, and worker safety. While many chains disclose processing plant IDs on meat packaging, Aldi often omits them entirely, labeling products only by supplier code. This makes tracing contaminated or recalled meat extremely difficult. In 2021, an outbreak of listeria linked to ground turkey resulted in a multi-state recall, but Aldi's name didn't appear in the initial reports because the turkey was co-packed under a third-party label. Only weeks later did it emerge that Aldi stores in 5 states carried the product. Behind the scenes, Aldi has built an ultra-efficient meat supply chain driven by European-style automation. But former employees from processing plants in Oklahoma and Indiana described harrowing conditions: meat cutting floors running for 16 hours without breaks, workers passing out from heat, and zero tolerance for mistakes. One anonymous source shared that supervisors instructed line workers to regrind visibly spoiled meat into taco blends as long as it smells okay when cooked. Even consumers have caught on. In 2023, a Reddit thread titled "Why Does Aldi Meat Spoil So Fast?" went viral, with hundreds of shoppers posting photos of slimy, foul-smelling chicken and pork that spoiled well before the sell-by date. Aldi's corporate response: a boilerplate email promising a refund and no comment on the systemic issue. It's the hidden compromise of discount living: affordability over assurance. And Aldi has perfected that trade. Aldi advertises a double guarantee. If you don't like something, you get a refund and a replacement. It's meant to inspire trust, but in the meat department, it's become a band-aid for systemic problems. Consumer complaint logs obtained via FOIA requests in 3 states show that over 60% of Aldi meat-related complaints from 2021 to 2023 referenced early spoilage, foul odor upon opening, or odd coloration. While most were resolved with refunds, none triggered public investigation. Why? Aldi processes complaints internally and quietly by design. Part of the issue lies in their just-in-time inventory system, which keeps costs low by minimizing storage time. But this means any delay, whether it's staffing, equipment failure, can push meat shipments dangerously close to expiration before they hit the shelf. In several Midwest stores, insiders described off-the-books practices like swapping Best Buy labels on meat trays using adhesive sticker machines, especially after weekends with slow sales. One manager confessed they were told not to create shrink unless the meat was physically leaking or discolored. Further complicating matters, Aldi's reliance on third-party brands with minimal transparency. Unlike Walmart or Kroger, which have at least partially public supply chain info, Aldi's labels offer no way to trace the origin of the meat. Consumers are left in the dark. The double guarantee sounds generous, But if the only protection you have is the ability to return the problem after you've already taken it home, is it really protection at all? Aldi's meat model is built for speed and simplicity. But speed in meat processing can mean cut corners, missed inspections, and hidden risks. One of Aldi's cost-saving secrets lies in its vertical integration with private label meat brands. This allows them to source meat at massive scale while maintaining a level of secrecy not possible with national name brands. But it also removes external accountability. If something goes wrong, there's no public brand name to blame but Aldi itself. 4. Kroger. The rewrap scandal. In 2019, a former Kroger employee in Cincinnati uploaded a secret video to YouTube. What it showed was simple and shocking. A butcher in full view of the backroom camera took a package of chicken thighs labeled "Sell by Aug 10" and peeled off the sticker. He applied a new one, "Sell by Aug 14, same chicken, new date, fresh again at least on paper." This wasn't just one rogue store. An NBC investigation discovered that 19 out of 20 Kroger locations visited across 5 states were regularly relabeling expired or near-expired meat. In one case, pork ribs from a Kroger in Louisville were tested and found to have been 4 days past their microbial safety window, yet still on shelves. Rewrap had shifted. Kroger responded with a promise to enhance freshness protocols. But an internal document leaked in 2023 revealed that store managers were incentivized to reduce meat waste even if it meant bending rules. Less waste meant bigger bonuses. Customers think they're buying fresh. But behind the deli counter, it's a numbers game and meat safety is the casualty. Kroger's sprawling grocery empire spans over 2,700 stores across 35 states, which makes its meat department one of the most powerful retail meat operations in the country. But that scale comes with a shocking level of inconsistency. In 2022, an internal food safety audit was leaked by a whistleblower. The findings: 36% of sampled Kroger stores had failed to follow USDA-recommended protocols for meat display temperatures. Even worse, the audit noted that managers routinely bypassed alerts from in-store temperature sensors to avoid having to discard expensive meat stock. But the failures don't stop at storage. Legal documents filed in Ohio in 2021 showed that Kroger's meat vendors had knowingly shipped thousands of pounds of wet-aged beef meat, aged in its own juices, under vacuum seal, past its aging window, resulting in spoiled but still packaged product. These items were not recalled because they didn't meet the criteria for bacterial threshold if they were sold as fresh. Meanwhile, Kroger's push into plant-based alternatives has ironically diverted oversight away from traditional meat. Internal budgets reviewed by investigative journalists show that while spending on meat promotions increased, funding for meat quality control audits decreased by 22% between 2020 and 2023. The result? More meat moved through the system but less inspection at every step. When lawsuits arise, Kroger has deep pockets for settlements, but what they can't buy back is trust. And in an industry where a single lapse can lead to mass illness, trust is everything. Kroger's meat department isn't just selling protein, it's selling risk management. In 2022 alone, Kroger quietly paid out over $5 million in settlements related to tainted meat, cross-contamination, and labeling violations. These weren't class action lawsuits. They were individual cases, many settled out of court and buried under NDAs. In one notable case, a customer in Tennessee fell ill after consuming freshly ground turkey that was later discovered to contain metal shavings from a malfunctioning grinder blade at a third-party processor. Internal incident reports showed the store was aware of the equipment issue 4 days earlier, but didn't remove the product. The issue never made the news. Kroger's internal communication system, known as Fresh Source, logs meat incidents daily across thousands of locations. Leaked snapshots from employees reveal regular reports of spoiled chicken, power outages in meat coolers, unlabeled meat trays, and more. Yet unless those logs cross a certain threshold, they're never escalated beyond store level. This decentralized system is exactly how Kroger avoids large-scale scandals. When something goes wrong, it's treated as a local hiccup, even if the practice is widespread. No central pattern is publicly acknowledged, and no store manager wants to raise a red flag that could affect bonuses or regional reviews. Meanwhile, their house brand meats, Simple Truth and Heritage Farm, carry labels that imply premium quality. But without independent third-party audits, those labels are little more than marketing stickers. And in the case of some products, like Kroger's pre-marinated pork, Ingredient lists omit key additives like phosphates and potassium lactate, both used to mask odor and extend shelf life. In the courtroom, Kroger's silence is bought. On the shelves, it's business as usual. Kroger is America's largest supermarket chain by revenue, and yet its meat safety record remains suspiciously underreported. In 2023, a group of whistleblowers from various Kroger locations provided a stunning revelation. Store managers are regularly pressured to meet waste reduction KPIs, even if it means relabeling meat nearing expiration. A former assistant manager from a store in Kentucky said, "We had a saying, if it's brown, wrap it down. We'd repackage it in ground blends or sausage to hide the color and move it." The USDA has issued multiple non-public warnings to Kroger meat suppliers for violations ranging from chemical residues to improper sanitation of evisceration areas. But because these notices don't rise to the level of official recalls, most of them never reach the public eye. 5. Target, beauty over beef. Target's grocery section is expanding fast. But when it comes to meat, the retailer's obsession with presentation may be endangering its customers. Former food safety inspectors from Target stores in Texas and Georgia revealed that aesthetic rules often trumped actual freshness. Meat with slight discoloration, even if still within safe limits, was trashed. But meat that looked good but smelled off, that was often kept on shelves, repackaged, or placed on managers' special markdowns. In 2022, a salmonella outbreak traced back to pre-marinated chicken breasts sold in Target's Good & Gather brand sickened 38 people across 6 states. The investigation found that Target's supplier had skipped multiple required chill cycles and that internal temperatures of delivered meat reached over 50 degrees Fahrenheit, well beyond the USDA's safe limit of 40 degrees Fahrenheit. Yet the meat still hit the shelves. Why? Because the packaging looked perfect. Target has since issued a recall and changed suppliers. But the core problem remains: beautiful packaging hides dangerous meat. Target has poured billions into reinventing itself as a modern lifestyle brand. But while their electronics section boasts the latest tech and their home goods mimic high-end design, their meat department is far behind in infrastructure, expertise, and transparency. Unlike traditional grocery chains, many Target locations have no trained butcher on site. All meat arrives prepackaged, and employees are told to face up packages, arranging them to look full and appealing, rather than checking freshness or odor. In 2023, a viral TikTok video showed a Target employee peeling back packages of Good & Gather beef to reveal grayish tones beneath a top layer of dyed red meat, a classic sign of surface exposure concealment. Target's private label suppliers have also come under scrutiny. An FDA report in 2022 flagged one of their contracted beef processors for serious sanitation lapses, including standing pools of blood near packing tables and workers not changing aprons between shifts. Despite this, Target continued to receive shipments for months. More alarming is Target's tendency to rely on packaging as a defense mechanism. Their vacuum-sealed meats often carry oxygen-absorbing sachets that can mask spoilage for days longer than traditional foam trays. But studies show that these packs can become breeding grounds for an anaerobic bacteria, including the deadly Clostridium botulinum, if temperatures fluctuate even briefly. Internally, Target has focused its food safety training on dry goods, shelf stocking, and checkout scanning, but meat safety, that's outsourced, automated, and barely monitored. It's a shocking truth. In a store that sells everything from iPads to artisanal candles, the raw chicken may be the least modern thing you buy. Target has always focused on aesthetic experiences, and their grocery section is no exception. But their meat strategy, it turns out, is built on outsourcing, opacity, and optics. For starters, nearly all Target meat products are produced by contract manufacturers, which vary regionally and are rarely disclosed. This means that Good & Gather steak purchased in Arizona might be from an entirely different processor than the same label in Ohio. Yet the packaging and branding look identical. In 2022, a small investigation by a Minnesota food watchdog group uncovered that several Target stores were receiving meat from facilities cited for HACCP violations, critical errors in food safety plans. When contacted for comment, Target declined to name the facilities, citing vendor confidentiality. Insiders also revealed that Target's internal meat quality checks were largely automated. Store employees scan barcodes and rely on expiry date algorithms, not sensory checks. If a package is within code, even if it smells off or looks odd, it remains on the shelf until pulled by automated stop rotation systems. Even worse, Target has increasingly adopted MAP, modified atmosphere packaging, for red meats using gas mixtures to preserve appearance. While legal, this method can disguise microbial growth and keep meat looking fresh far past its true lifespan. In one case, a family in Georgia became violently ill after eating fresh ground beef from Target that was 2 weeks old by the time it was opened. They later discovered the packaging had no clear slaughter or packing date, only a Best Buy label printed at the store. And because Target lacks in-store butchers, there's no human gatekeeper between flawed product and consumer. Just scanners, software, and the assumption that corporate knows best. Target wants to be your all-in-one lifestyle destination. But when it comes to meat, they're struggling to maintain even the most basic food safety standards. A 2023 undercover report by a grocery safety group sent trained researchers into 50 Target locations nationwide. The results were troubling. 27 of the stores had meat coolers running above safe temperatures, and 16 had packages of raw chicken with clear signs of bloating or spoilage. Despite complaints, the meat was not pulled until days later. Target's reliance on prepackaged meats creates a false sense of cleanliness, but in reality, it also reduces employee accountability. No one is trained to assess the internal condition of these vacuum-sealed products. If it's sealed and within date, it goes on the shelf. What's worse, Target outsources its meat under multiple brand names: Good & Gather, Market Pantry, Simply Balanced, each tied to different suppliers depending on region. There's no uniform standard across these lines, and consumers can't tell where the meat is coming from. In 2024, a salmonella outbreak linked to pre-cooked pork ribs sold under the Good & Gather label sickened 92 people across 7 states. But Target didn't issue a full-scale public recall, just a precautionary withdrawal from select stores. Many customers only learned about it through local news reports. Target has mastered the illusion of modernity. Clean design, neutral tones, minimalist packaging, but underneath it all, their meat department is stuck in an outdated, disconnected system, run by third-party logistics and empty branding. Let's be blunt, these chains aren't going to police themselves. Their systems are designed for convenience, efficiency, and cost optimization, not consumer protection. If you walk into a store expecting that fresh means recently slaughtered, that organic means ethically raised, or that USDA inspected means safe, you're falling for illusions. Here's what they're really doing. Asterisk using vague labels like all natural that mean nothing legally. Asterisk swapping out plant codes to avoid linking to recall-prone processors. Asterisk applying second-layer labels over older expiration dates. Asterisk rebranding imported or frozen meat as fresh domestic. Asterisk choosing visual appeal over microbial testing. And when something goes wrong, they'll settle in court. Quietly, with NDAs and no admission of guilt. This isn't just about expired sausage or mislabeled chicken breasts. It's about a systemic collapse of trust in the one department that most directly affects your health. The meat aisle isn't just another section of the store, it's a ticking time bomb, held together by marketing denial and customer ignorance. And now, you know,